What price would you put on dignity? Min-jae asked. What price on respect? What price on teaching people that cruelty has consequences? The reporter had no answer. Another reporter asked Ji-won, how does it feel to be the inspiration for this transformation? Ji-won spoke carefully. I do not think of myself as inspiration. I was just someone who was treated badly, but I am grateful that something good came from something painful. Do you regret what happened? I regret that people can be cruel. But I do not regret the result. This store is now a force for good. It employs wonderful people. It treats customers with dignity. It proves that business can be both profitable and kind. Maria Santos gave a speech during the event. She talked about how working at Lumiere changed her career. I worked in jewelry for 20 years, she said, but I never loved my job until I came here. Here, I am not just selling jewelry. I am celebrating people's important moments. I am making them feel valued. That is a privilege. Kenji Tanaka unveiled his Phoenix collection. Beautiful pieces inspired by the idea of rising from ashes. The collection sold out within 3 hours. I designed these pieces thinking about transformation, Kenji explained to the crowd, about how pain can become beauty, how destruction can lead to creation, how endings can be beginnings. Aisha Muhammad spoke last. Her words were simple but powerful. Before I worked here, I thought luxury was about expensive things. Now I know luxury is about how you make people feel. Every person who walks through our door should feel like they matter. Because they do. Everyone matters, the crowd applauded. Many people were crying. Ji-won stood next to Min-jae, watching it all. She thought about that terrible morning 6 months ago when she walked into this store and was humiliated. She never could have imagined it would lead to this. After the event, a young woman approached Ji-won. She looked familiar, but Ji-won could not place her. Mrs. Park? The young woman said nervously. My name is Sophie Chen. We met briefly at the first anniversary event, but you might not remember. Ji-won did remember. You are the journalism student. Your family owns the restaurant in Queens. Sophie looked surprised and pleased. You remembered. I just wanted to tell you something. I wrote my college thesis about Lumiere Jewelers, about how your story inspired change. My professor loved it. That is wonderful, Ji-won said. But more importantly, Sophie continued, your story inspired me personally. My family has dealt with discrimination too. People who looked down on us because we are immigrants, who treated us like we were less than. Your story taught me that we do not have to accept that we can demand better. Ji-won felt tears forming. Thank you for telling me that. Sophie smiled. No, thank you. Thank you for being brave enough to share what happened to you, for letting it become something bigger. After Sophie left, Min-jae came over. What was that about? Ji-won told him. Min-jae put his arm around her shoulders. You changed more than just this store, he said. You changed how people think about standing up for themselves. That night, after everyone left and the store was quiet, Min-jae and Ji-won stood inside alone. The lights were dimmed. Display cases sparkled softly. The store felt peaceful. Do you remember how this place felt a year ago? Ji-won asked, cold, unwelcoming, cruel. And now? Now it feels warm, like a place where good things happen. They walked slowly through the store, looking at the displays Kenji had arranged. The Phoenix collection was already being restocked. The scholarship information was displayed near the register. We did something good here, Ji-won said softly. We did, Min-jae agreed. Do you ever regret spending so much money? Min-jae shook his head. Not for a single second. This was the best investment I ever made. Because it is profitable now? No, because it changed things. It showed that you can run a business based on kindness and still succeed. Maybe even succeed better. They left the store and stood outside on the sidewalk. It was a clear night. Stars were visible even through the city lights. What do you think the future holds for this place? Ji-won asked. I think it will keep growing. Keep proving that respect and dignity matter. Maybe other stores will copy what we did here. Maybe the whole industry will change. That would be amazing, and it started with you, Min-jae reminded her. Your grace when they treated you badly. Your willingness to share the story. Your idea about the scholarship fund. This is as much yours as mine. Ji-won leaned against him. No, this is ours. We built it together. They stood there for a while watching people walk past. Some people stopped to look at the store windows. Some pointed and talked about the article they had read. Lumiere Jewelers had become more than just a jewelry store. It had become a symbol of standing up to cruelty. a symbol of choosing kindness over profit, dignity over exclusion. But more than that, it had become a place where people felt valued, where a woman in jeans could walk in and be treated like royalty, where an elderly man on a fixed income could buy a modest gift and feel proud, where young people could see that business could be a force for good. 1 year ago, Jiwon walked into this store and was made to feel worthless. Today, this same store made thousands of people feel valuable every month. That was real transformation. That was real change. As they walked home through the Manhattan streets, Jiwon thought about everything that had happened. About pain turned into purpose. About cruelty transformed into kindness. About how one bad morning became a movement. She thought about Hana, learning lessons about dignity and respect. About Soo Young wearing her pearl necklace and smiling. About Harold Ashford's letter, acknowledging that the store was finally what it should have been all along. She thought about Maria, Kenji and Aisha, going to work every day in a place that valued kindness. About the scholarship students who would get opportunities they never thought possible. About Sophie Chen and countless others who found inspiration in the story. Most of all, she thought about Minjae. About his fierce protection of the people he loved. About his willingness to turn anger into action and action into positive change. "Thank you," she said quietly as they walked. "For what?" "For everything. For defending me. For caring enough to do something big. For turning something terrible into something beautiful." Minjae squeezed her hand. "I would do it again in a heartbeat. 1,000 times over." They reached their apartment building. Above them, their home waited. Inside, Hana was probably already asleep, dreaming of whatever 7-year-olds dream about. Before they went inside, Jiwon looked back toward Fifth Avenue. She could not see the store from here, but she knew it was there. Glowing warmly in the Manhattan night, a beacon of hope and kindness in a world that sometimes forgot both. And she knew that tomorrow the store would open again. Maria would greet the first customers with her warm smile. Kenji would sketch new designs. Aisha would make someone feel valued and special. The cycle would continue. The transformation would keep growing. The ripples would keep spreading, all because one woman had the courage to call her husband when she was hurt. And one man loved her enough to change the world in response. That was the real story of Lumiere Jewelers. Not about revenge or money or business success, but about love. About standing up for what is right. About refusing to accept cruelty as normal. It was a story about how sometimes the best response to darkness is to create light, and how that light once started can spread further than anyone imagined. As Jiwon and Minjae rode the elevator up to their apartment, she realized something important. The store was not the end of the story. It was just the beginning. Because kindness, once started, never really ends. It just keeps growing, touching more lives, inspiring more change, creating more light in the darkness. And that was a legacy worth building, a legacy worth protecting, a legacy that would last far beyond any of them. The doors opened to their floor. They walked down the quiet hallway to their home. Inside, their daughter slept peacefully, growing up in a world that was just a little bit kinder because of what her parents had done. And outside, in the great city of Manhattan, a jewelry store glowed warmly through the night. A small place that proved a big truth, that treating people with dignity is not just good morals but good business. That kindness is not weakness but strength. That sometimes the most powerful response to cruelty is to build something beautiful in its place. This was the legacy of Lumiere Jewelers. This was the legacy of Jiwon and Minjae Park. This was the legacy they would pass on to Hana and to everyone whose life they touched. And it all started with a simple woman walking into a jewelry store, looking for a birthday gift for someone she loved. Sometimes, the smallest moments lead to the biggest changes. Sometimes pain becomes purpose. Sometimes one person's courage to speak up changes everything. This was one of those times, and the story, the real story, was just beginning. "What price would you put on dignity?" Minjae asked. "What price on respect? What price on teaching people that cruelty has consequences?" The reporter had no answer. Another reporter asked Jiwon, "How does it feel to be the inspiration for this transformation?" Jiwon spoke carefully. "I do not think of myself as inspiration. I was just someone who was treated badly, but I am grateful that something good came from something painful. Do you regret what happened? I regret that people can be cruel. But I do not regret the result. This store is now a force for good, It employs wonderful people. It treats customers with dignity. It proves that business can be both profitable and kind. Maria Santos gave a speech during the event. She talked about how working at Lumiere changed her career. I worked in jewelry for 20 years, she said, but I never loved my job until I came here. Here, I am not just selling jewelry. I am celebrating people's important moments. I am making them feel valued. That is a privilege. Kenji Tanaka unveiled his Phoenix collection. Beautiful pieces inspired by the idea of rising from ashes. The collection sold out within 3 hours. I designed these pieces thinking about transformation, Kenji explained to the crowd, about how pain can become beauty, how destruction can lead to creation, how endings can be beginnings. Aisha Muhammad spoke last. Her words were simple but powerful. Before I worked here, I thought luxury was about expensive things. Now I know luxury is about how you make people feel. Every person who walks through our door should feel like they matter. Because they do. Everyone matters, the crowd applauded. Many people were crying. Ji-won stood next to Min-jae, watching it all. She thought about that terrible morning 6 months ago when she walked into this store and was humiliated. She never could have imagined it would lead to this. After the event, a young woman approached Ji-won. She looked familiar, but Ji-won could not place her. "Mrs. Park?" the young woman said nervously. "My name is Sophie Chen. We met briefly at the first anniversary event, but you might not remember." Ji-won did remember. "You are the journalism student. Your family owns the restaurant in Queens." Sophie looked surprised and pleased. "You remembered. I just wanted to tell you something. I wrote my college thesis about Lumiere Jewelers, about how your story inspired change. My professor loved it." "That is wonderful," Ji-won said. "But more importantly," Sophie continued, "your story inspired me personally. My family has dealt with discrimination too. People who look down on us because we are immigrants, who treated us like we were less than. Your story taught me that we do not have to accept that we can demand better." Ji-won felt tears forming. "Thank you for telling me that," Sophie smiled. "No, thank you. Thank you for being brave enough to share what happened to you, for letting it become something bigger." After Sophie left, Min-jae came over. "What was that about?" Ji-won told him. Min-jae put his arm around her shoulders. "You changed more than just this store," he said. "You changed how people think about standing up for themselves." That night, after everyone left and the store was quiet, Min-jae and Ji-won stood inside alone. The lights were dimmed. Display cases sparkled softly. The store felt peaceful. "Do you remember how this place felt a year ago?" Ji-won asked, cold, unwelcoming, cruel. "And now? Now it feels warm, like a place where good things happen." They walked slowly through the store, looking at the displays Kenji had arranged. The Phoenix collection was already being restocked. The scholarship information was displayed near the register. "We did something good here," Ji-won said softly. "We did," Min-jae agreed. "Do you ever regret spending so much money?" Min-jae shook his head. "Not for a single second. This was the best investment I ever made. Because it is profitable now? No, because it changed things. It showed that you can run a business based on kindness and still succeed. Maybe even succeed better." They left the store and stood outside on the sidewalk. It was a clear night. Stars were visible even through the city lights. "What do you think the future holds for this place?" Ji-won asked. "I think it will keep growing. Keep proving that respect and dignity matter. Maybe other stores will copy what we did here. Maybe the whole industry will change." "That would be amazing, and it started with you," Min-jae reminded her. "Your grace when they treated you badly. Your willingness to share the story. Your idea about the scholarship fund. This is as much yours as mine." Ji-won leaned against him. "No, this is ours. We built it together." They stood there for a while watching people walk past. Some people stopped to look at the store windows. Some pointed and talked about the article they had read. Lumiere Jewelers had become more than just a jewelry store. It had become a symbol of standing up to cruelty, a symbol of choosing kindness over profit, dignity over exclusion. But more than that, it had become a place where people felt valued, where a woman in jeans could walk in and be treated like royalty, where an elderly man on a fixed income could buy a modest gift and feel proud, where young people could see that business could be a force for good. 1 year ago, Ji-won walked into this store and was made to feel worthless. Today, this same store made thousands of people feel valuable every month. That was real transformation. That was real change. As they walked home through the Manhattan streets, Ji-won thought about everything that had happened. About pain turned into purpose. About cruelty transformed into kindness. About how one bad morning became a movement. She thought about Hana, learning lessons about dignity and respect. About Soo-young wearing her pearl necklace and smiling. About Harold Ashford's letter, acknowledging that the store was finally what it should have been all along. She thought about Maria, Kenji and Aisha, going to work every day in a place that valued kindness. About the scholarship students who would get opportunities they never thought possible. About Sophie Chen and countless others who found inspiration in the story. Most of all, she thought about Min-jae. About his fierce protection of the people he loved. About his willingness to turn anger into action and action into positive change. "Thank you," she said quietly as they walked. "For what?" "For everything. For defending me. For caring enough to do something big. For turning something terrible into something beautiful." Min-jae squeezed her hand. "I would do it again in a heartbeat. 1,000 times over." They reached their apartment building. Above them, their home waited. Inside, Hana was probably already asleep, dreaming of whatever 7-year-olds dream about. Before they went inside, Ji-won looked back toward Fifth Avenue. She could not see the store from here, but she knew it was there. Glowing warmly in the Manhattan night, a beacon of hope and kindness in a world that sometimes forgot both, and she knew that tomorrow the store would open again. Maria would greet the first customers with her warm smile. Kenji would sketch new designs. Aisha would make someone feel valued and special. The cycle would continue. The transformation would keep growing. The ripples would keep spreading, all because one woman had the courage to call her husband when she was hurt. And one man loved her enough to change the world in response. That was the real story of Lumiere Jewelers. Not about revenge or money or business success, but about love. About standing up for what is right. About refusing to accept cruelty as normal. It was a story about how sometimes the best response to darkness is to create light, and how that light once started can spread further than anyone imagined. As Ji-won and Min-jae rode the elevator up to their apartment, she realized something important. The store was not the end of the story. It was just the beginning, because kindness once started never really ends. It just keeps growing, touching more lives, inspiring more change, creating more light in the darkness. And that was a legacy worth building, a legacy worth protecting, a legacy that would last far beyond any of them. The doors opened to their floor. They walked down the quiet hallway to their home. Inside, their daughter slept peacefully, growing up in a world that was just a little bit kinder because of what her parents had done. And outside, in the great city of Manhattan, a jewelry store glowed warmly through the night, a small place that proved a big truth, that treating people with dignity is not just good morals but good business, that kindness is not weakness but strength, that sometimes the most powerful response to cruelty is to build something beautiful in its place. This was the legacy of Lumiere Jewelers. This was the legacy of Ji-won and Min-jae Park. This was the legacy they would pass on to Hana and to everyone whose life they touched. And it all started with a simple woman walking into a jewelry store, looking for a birthday gift for someone she loved. Sometimes, the smallest moments lead to the biggest changes. Sometimes pain becomes purpose. Sometimes one person's courage to speak up changes everything. This was one of those times, and the story, the real story, was just beginning. The morning sun was just rising over Incheon International Airport when Min-seo Park walked through the parking lot. She wore old blue jeans with small holes near the knees. Her jacket was faded and looked like she had owned it for many years. On her back, she carried a simple black backpack that had seen better days. Her gray hair was pulled back in a loose ponytail. She wore no makeup. Her shoes were comfortable walking shoes, not fancy at all. Min-seo had just returned from visiting her elderly parents in her hometown. It was a small fishing village by the sea. She always dressed simply when she visited them. It made them comfortable. They did not like it when she wore expensive clothes. To them, she was still their daughter who grew up helping them sell fish at the market. She walked toward the employee entrance of the airport. This was not the main entrance where passengers went. This entrance was for people who worked at the airport. Min-seo used this entrance often. She liked to see how her employees were treated. She liked to watch how things really worked when no one knew she was watching. 2 security guards stood at the employee entrance. Their names were Young-ho and Sang-wook. Young-ho was tall and thin. He had worked at the airport for 5 years. Sang-wook was shorter and wider. He had been there for 7 years. Both men wore neat security uniforms. Their badges shined in the morning light. Min-seo walked up to the entrance. She reached into her pocket for her employee card. Before she could pull it out, Jung-ho stepped in front of her. "Excuse me," Jung-ho said. His voice was not polite. "Where do you think you are going?" Min-seo looked up at him and smiled gently. "Good morning. I work here. I need to go inside." Sang-wook laughed. It was not a nice laugh. "You work here? Really, doing what? Cleaning the bathrooms?" Jung-ho joined in the laughter. "Look at her clothes. She looks like she just came from the street." Min-seo kept her smile, though it became a little harder. "I have my employee card. Would you like to see it?" Sure, Jung-ho said, still smiling in a mean way. "Let me guess. You are the president of the airline, right?" He looked at Sang-wook and they both laughed again. Min-seo pulled out her employee card. It was a special card. It had her name and her photo. It also had a gold strip on it. This gold strip meant the person had access to all areas of the airport. Only very important employees had cards with gold strips. She held the card out to Jung-ho. He took it and barely looked at it. He glanced at the photo, then at her face, then back at the photo. "This does not look like you," he said. "This photo is fake. Where did you get this card? Did you steal it?" Min-seo's smile faded a little. "The photo is me. It was taken 2 years ago. Please scan the card in your system. It will show you everything." Sang-wook took the card from Jung-ho. He held it up to the light as if he was some kind of expert. "This definitely looks fake. The gold strip is probably just paint or something." "Sir, please just scan it," Min-seo said. Her voice was still calm and polite. "The system will tell you who I am." "We know who you are," Jung-ho said. "You are someone trying to sneak into the airport. Maybe you want to steal something. Maybe you want to beg for money from the real employees." A few other airport workers were starting to arrive for their shifts. They walked past and looked at the scene. Some of them whispered to each other. Min-seo noticed all of this. She noticed how the guards were performing for an audience now. "Look, everyone," Sang-wook called out loudly. "We have someone here who thinks she can just walk into the employee area. She has a fake ID card and everything." He held up Min-seo's card like it was a prize. 3 other employees stopped to watch. One of them was a young woman named Hee-jin. She was a junior manager for one of the airport shops. Hee-jin looked at Min-seo carefully. Something about the older woman's face seemed familiar to her. "Maybe we should call the police," Jung-ho said. "Using a fake employee card is a crime. You could go to jail for this, old woman." Min-seo took a slow breath. She had been patient for 10 minutes now. She had hoped these guards would do their job properly. She had hoped they would scan her card and check the system. But they were not doing that. Instead, they were making fun of her. They were judging her based only on her clothes and her age. "I'm asking you one more time," Min-seo said. Her voice was still calm, but now it was also firm. "Please scan my card in your system. Please check who I am. Then you will understand." "Oh, we understand," Sang-wook said. "We understand that you are a confused old woman. Maybe you are lost. Maybe you need help finding your way home." Jung-ho added, "The public entrance is on the other side of the airport. That is where people like you should go. If you can even afford a plane ticket, which I doubt." Hee-jin, the young manager, stepped forward. She had been watching carefully. "Excuse me," she said to the guards. "Maybe we should check the card like she is asking. It will only take a moment." Jung-ho turned to her with an annoyed look. "Hee-jin, we know what we are doing. We have been doing this job for years. We know a fake card when we see one." "But the card has a gold strip," Hee-jin said carefully. "Those are very hard to fake. And she does look a little bit familiar to me. I think I have seen her face somewhere before." "Familiar?" Sang-wook laughed. "Yeah, she probably looks like your grandmother or something. Look at her, Hee-jin. Does she look like someone important? Does she look like someone who has a gold strip access card?" More employees had gathered now. About 8 people stood nearby watching the situation. Some of them had their phones out. In the modern world, everyone recorded everything. Min-seo looked at all the watching faces. She saw curiosity. She saw some people who looked uncomfortable. She saw others who were enjoying the show. This was a moment that would teach her a lot about her company. It was not a lesson she wanted to learn, but it was an important one. "I would like to speak to someone from management," Min-seo said clearly. Please call someone from the airline's management office. They will verify who I am. Jung-ho rolled his eyes dramatically. Oh, now she wants to speak to management. What do you think this is, a customer service desk? You are not even a customer. You are a trespasser. With a fake ID, Sang-wook added, still holding Min Seo's card. We are keeping this card as evidence. Min Seo nodded slowly. You are keeping my employee identification card. You refuse to scan it in your system. You refuse to call anyone to verify who I am. Is that correct? That is exactly correct, Jung-ho said proudly. We are doing our job. We are keeping the airport safe from people who do not belong here. People who do not belong here, Min Seo repeated quietly. And you decided I do not belong here because of how I look, because of my clothes, because of my age. Is that also correct? Sang-wook shifted uncomfortably for the first time. Something in Min Seo's voice had changed. It was still calm, but there was something else now. Something that made him slightly nervous, though he did not know why. We make judgments based on our experience, Jung-ho said, but he sounded a little less confident now. And our experience tells us that someone dressed like you at your age is not an employee with gold strip access. Hyejin spoke up again. I really think we should just scan the card. It would solve everything. Why not just check? Because we do not need to, Sang-wook said firmly. We are the security here. We make the decisions. Min Seo reached into her jacket pocket. Both guards tensed up as if she might pull out a weapon. Instead, she pulled out a simple mobile phone. It was not an expensive phone. It was just a basic model that made calls and sent messages. May I make a phone call? Min Seo asked. Jung-ho and Sang-wook looked at each other and laughed again. Sure, Jung-ho said. Call whoever you want. Call your family to come pick you up. Min Seo pressed a number on her phone. It was a number she rarely used. It was a direct line to her executive assistant, a young man named Jun Young. He answered on the second ring. Good morning, Min Seo said simply. I am at the employee entrance. There is a situation here that needs your attention. She listened for a moment. Yes, that entrance. Please come, and please bring the necessary people. She ended the call and put her phone back in her pocket. The whole call had lasted less than 30 seconds. Who did you call? Sang-wook asked. Your son? Your grandson? I called someone who can help resolve this situation, Min Seo said. She looked at both guards carefully. You should know that everything happening here this morning is teaching me something very important about this company. I am learning about how people are treated. I am learning about judgment and respect and dignity. Jung-ho made a confused face. What are you talking about, old woman? You will understand soon, Min Seo said. She walked over to a bench near the entrance and sat down. I will wait here. The crowd of watching employees had grown. Now there were about 12 people standing around. They all sensed that something interesting was about to happen. They did not know what, but they could feel it in the air. Hyejin sat down on the bench next to Min Seo. Are you okay? She asked quietly. Min Seo looked at the young woman and smiled. It was the first real smile she had shown that morning. I'm fine. Thank you for trying to help. What is your name? Hyejin. I manage one of the duty-free shops. Thank you, Hyejin, Min Seo said. You have a kind heart. Remember that. Keep that kindness no matter how long you work here. 6 months before that morning at the airport, Min Seo Park had been sitting in her modern office on the top floor of Skybridge Airline's headquarters. Through her large windows, she could see planes taking off and landing. Each plane carried hundreds of people to different places around the world. This view never got old for her. Even after all these years, watching planes still filled her with wonder. But Min Seo's life had not always been like this. She had not always had a corner office with a view. She had not always worn business suits and attended important meetings. Her story had started in a very different place. Min Seo was born 48 years ago in a tiny fishing village on the southern coast of Korea. The village had only about 200 people. Everyone knew everyone else. Her father caught fish in his small boat. Her mother sold the fish at the local market. They were not poor, but they were not rich either. They had enough to eat and a small house to live in. That was all. As a little girl, Min Seo helped her parents every day. Before school, she helped her mother prepare fish for the market. After school, she helped clean the fish and pack them in ice. Her hands always smelled like fish. Her clothes always had fish scales on them. Some of the other children made fun of her for this. But Min Seo did not mind the work. She loved her parents. She loved how hard they worked. She loved how they always smiled even when they were tired. Her father would sometimes stop his work and point at the sky. "Look, Min Seo," he would say. "Another plane." "Where do you think those people are going?" Min Seo would imagine all the places. Tokyo, Beijing, America, Europe. Places she had only seen in books. She dreamed of flying in a plane one day. She dreamed of seeing the world from up high above the clouds. Her teacher noticed that Min Seo was very smart. She was the best student in her small village school. When Min Seo was 14, her teacher came to visit her parents. Min Seo should go to a better school in the city, the teacher said. She could get a scholarship. She could go to university one day. Min Seo's parents were scared. The city was far away. They would miss their daughter, but they wanted the best for her. They agreed to let her go. Min Seo moved to Seoul when she was 15. She lived with her aunt and uncle in a tiny apartment. She attended a good high school. She studied harder than anyone. She woke up at 5 in the morning to study before school. She studied late into the night. She was not the richest student. She was not the student with the best clothes, but she was the student who worked the hardest. She got a scholarship to university. She studied aviation management. This was her dream. She wanted to understand everything about airlines and airports. She wanted to understand how planes worked, how airports operated, how to make passengers happy. But university was not easy. The scholarship paid for her classes, but it did not pay for food or rent or books. Min Seo needed to work. She worked 3 different jobs while going to university. In the morning, she cleaned offices. In the afternoon, she worked at a convenience store. At night, she studied. On weekends, she worked at the airport as ground crew. The ground crew job was Min Seo's favorite. She helped load bags onto planes. She helped guide planes on the ground. She helped passengers who needed wheelchairs. The work was hard and the pay was low, but she was near planes. She was part of the aviation world. That made her happy. The other ground crew workers liked Min Seo. She was always positive. She always worked hard. She always had ideas about how to do things better. "Why do we load the bags this way?" she would ask. "What if we tried this method instead? It might be faster." Her supervisor noticed her smart ideas. He told his manager. The manager told his director. Soon, people at the airline were talking about the young ground crew worker who had such good ideas. After Min Seo graduated from university, the airline offered her a real job. Not ground crew anymore, but an office job in operations. She accepted immediately. She was 22 years old and so happy she cried. For the next 10 years, Min Seo worked her way up in the airline industry. She worked for 3 different airlines. She learned everything she could. She learned about scheduling flights. She learned about buying planes. She learned about customer service. She learned about safety regulations. She learned about managing employees. She also learned about problems in the airline industry. She saw how some airlines treated their workers badly. She saw how some managers only cared about money, not about people. She saw passengers being treated rudely. She saw good employees being ignored or disrespected. Min Seo thought a lot about these problems. She believed airlines could be different. They could make money and still treat people well. They could be efficient and still be kind. She started writing down her ideas. She created plans for how an airline should really work. When Min Seo was 32, something important happened. A small airline called Skybridge Airlines was failing. It was losing money every month. It had old planes. Its employees were unhappy. Its customers were unhappy. The owners wanted to sell it or close it down. Min Seo saw an opportunity. She had been saving money for years. She had also impressed several business investors with her ideas. She went to these investors and showed them her plans. "Give me a chance," she said. "Let me try to save Skybridge Airlines. I know I can make it work." The investors were not sure at first. Min Seo was young. She was a woman in an industry run mostly by men. She did not come from a rich or powerful family. But her ideas were so good. Her passion was so clear. Her plans were so detailed. Finally, they agreed. They gave her the money she needed. Min Seo and the investors bought Skybridge Airlines. It was the scariest day of her life. If she failed, she would lose everything. All her savings would be gone. Her reputation would be destroyed. She would let down everyone who believed in her. But Min Seo did not fail. She worked harder than she had ever worked before. She started by talking to the employees. Not just the managers and pilots. She talked to everyone, the flight attendants, the ground crew, the cleaning staff, the maintenance workers, the ticket agents, everyone. What is wrong with this airline? She asked them. What would make it better? At first, people did not believe she really wanted to know. Bosses did not usually ask workers for their opinions. But Min Seo kept asking. She kept listening. She wrote down everything people told her. Then she started making changes. She fixed the problems that employees told her about. She bought better equipment for the ground crew. She improved the schedule so flight attendants had better rest time. She made sure maintenance workers had the tools they needed. She increased pay for the lowest paid workers. She also changed how the airline treated passengers. She trained everyone in customer service. Not just flight attendants, but everyone. Even the people who cleaned the planes. Every person who works here represents our airline, she said. Every interaction matters. The changes worked. Slowly, Skybridge Airlines started to improve. Employees became happier. Happy employees treated passengers better. Passengers started choosing Skybridge more often. The airline started making money instead of losing it. Over the next 16 years, Skybridge Airlines grew and grew. It went from being a small failing airline to one of the most respected airlines in Asia. It had modern planes. It had happy employees. It had loyal customers. And Min Seo Park became the CEO and owner. But success changed some things about Min Seo's life. She had to attend important meetings with government officials. She had to meet with business leaders from around the world. She had to wear nice clothes and go to fancy events. She had an office on the top floor. She had assistants and drivers and people who did things for her. Min Seo did not like all of these changes. She missed being close to the real work. She missed talking to ground crew and flight attendants every day. She worried that she was losing touch with what really happened in her airline. So she started doing something unusual. Once or twice a month, she would dress in simple clothes. She would not tell anyone she was coming. She would visit different parts of her airline and just watch. Sometimes she would talk to employees, but she would not tell them who she was. She wanted to see the truth. She wanted to know how things really worked when the CEO was not watching. Usually, these visits went well. She saw employees working hard and treating each other with respect. She saw the culture she had tried to build actually working. This made her proud and happy, but sometimes she saw problems. She saw managers being rude to lower-level workers. She saw some employees being lazy. She saw passengers being treated badly. When she saw these things, she would take notes. Then later, she would address the problems through proper channels. 6 months before the incident at the airport, Min Seo had been doing one of these secret visits. She had been watching a ticket counter at a different airport. She saw how the ticket agents worked. Most of them were wonderful, but one supervisor was terrible. He yelled at his team. He made fun of passengers who did not speak Korean well. He treated older passengers like they were stupid. Min Seo had watched for 2 hours. She had seen enough. She called her human resources director and reported everything she had seen. The supervisor was called in for a meeting. He was given a warning and required to take training classes. He improved after that. The minutes passed slowly. More and more airport employees arrived for their morning shifts. Each time someone new appeared, they noticed the strange scene at the employee entrance. An older woman in simple clothes sitting on a bench. 2 security guards watching her suspiciously. A crowd of about 15 employees standing around whispering to each other. Hye-jin, the young manager who had tried to help Min Seo, kept glancing at her. Something was bothering Hye-jin. She was sure she had seen this woman's face before. But where? In the airport? No, that was not it. Somewhere else. Maybe in a newspaper. On television? Young-ho and Sang-wook were getting more confident again. 15 minutes had passed since the old woman made her phone call. Nothing had happened. No one had come. They decided she had probably called a friend or family member who could not help her. Still waiting? Sang-wook called out to Min Seo. His voice was mocking. Maybe whoever you called is not coming. Maybe they know you are lying too. Min Seo did not answer. She simply sat quietly on the bench. Her face was calm, but her mind was very active. She was watching everything. She was noticing which employees looked uncomfortable with how she was being treated. She was noticing which ones seemed to enjoy it. She was learning a lot about her company's culture. Jung-ho walked over to where Min Seo sat. He stood in front of her with his arms crossed. "Look, old lady, We have been patient with you. But you need to leave now. This is private property. You are trespassing. If you do not leave in 5 minutes, we will call the police. I will wait for the person I called, Min-seo said calmly. They will be here soon. Who did you call? Young-ho demanded. Tell us who you called. Give us a name. You will see when they arrive, Min-seo replied. Sang-wook joined Jung-ho. Both guards stood in front of Min-seo now, trying to intimidate her with their presence. You know what I think? Sang-wook said loudly, making sure everyone could hear. I think you are one of those people who tries to sneak into airports to beg for money. Or maybe you want to steal bags from the employee areas. We have had problems with people like you before. Several employees in the crowd shifted uncomfortably. A few of them were starting to feel bad about this situation. The guards seemed to be going too far. Even if this woman was not supposed to be there, did they need to be so cruel? But no one spoke up. No one wanted to challenge the guards. Young-ho and Sang-wook had been working at this airport for years. They had authority. They had power. Speaking against them could cause problems except for Hee-jin. She could not stay quiet anymore. She stepped forward again. Please, she said to both guards. Can we just scan her card? I really think I recognize her from somewhere. What if she is telling the truth? Young-ho turned to her with an angry expression. Hee-jin, I am telling you for the last time. Mind your own business. Go to your shop and do your job. We know how to do ours. But it would only take 1 minute to check, Hee-jin insisted. Why not just look in the system? Then we would know for sure. We do not need the system, Sang-wook said firmly. We know all the important employees. We see them every day. We know the executives. We know the senior managers. We know the directors. This woman is not one of them. That is obvious just by looking at her. Looking at her, Hee-jin repeated. What do you mean by that? Sang-wook gestured at Min-seo. Come on, Hee-jin. Use your eyes. Look at her clothes. Look at her hair. Look at her age. Does she look like an executive to you? Does she look like someone who runs things around here? I think appearances can be deceiving, Hee-jin said quietly, but she did not push anymore. She could see the guards were getting angry with her. Jung-ho pointed at Min-seo's backpack. That bag probably has all her belongings in it. She probably lives on the streets. That is why her clothes are so old and worn out. I am not homeless, Min-seo said. Her voice was still calm, but there was an edge to it now. I have a home. I have a job. I have dignity. Everyone deserves to be treated with dignity, regardless of how they look or how much money they have. Oh, dignity, Sang-wook repeated mockingly. She wants dignity. Well, if you want dignity, maybe you should dress better. Maybe you should take care of yourself. You are what, 60 years old, 70? At your age, you should not be wandering around airports trying to get into places you do not belong. I am 48 years old, Min-seo said, and I belong here more than you might think. Young-ho laughed. 48? You look much older than that. Maybe you should spend less time making up stories and more time taking care of your appearance. Min-seo felt a flash of real anger for the first time, not because they insulted her appearance. She did not care about that. But because she realized that these guards probably treated many people this way. How many other employees had they judged by their appearance? How many had they mocked or belittled? How many people had felt small and powerless because of these two men? More employees had gathered now. The crowd had grown to about 20 people. Some of them had their phones out and were recording video. In the modern world, everything got recorded and shared on social media. Min-seo knew the situation would probably be online within hours. A young man in a baggage handler uniform spoke up from the crowd. Maybe we should just let her wait. She said someone is coming. What is the harm in letting her sit there? Young-ho spun around to face him. The harm is that she does not belong here. This is a secure area. We have rules. If we let one person break the rules, then everyone will think they can break the rules. But what rule is she breaking by sitting on a bench? The baggage handler asked. She is trespassing, Sang-wook answered sharply. She has a fake ID card. That is a serious crime. How do you know it is fake if you have not scanned it? Another voice called from the crowd. It was a woman who worked as a flight attendant. Young-ho's face was getting red now. He did not like being questioned by so many people. We are security professionals. We have been trained to spot fake IDs. We do not need to scan every single card to know when something is wrong. Min-seo watched all of this carefully. She watched the guards getting defensive. She watched some employees supporting her and others staying silent. She watched the whole social dynamic playing out. This was valuable information even if the situation was unpleasant. Sang-wook walked right up to Min Seo. He stood very close, trying to use his physical presence to intimidate her. I'm going to ask you one more time. Who did you call? Give me a name and a phone number. If you really called someone from the airline, tell me who. His name is Jun Young, Min Seo said. He works in the executive offices. Jun Young, Sang-wook repeated. Jun Young who? What is his last name? What is his job title? His full name is Park Jun Young. He is an executive assistant. Young-ho pulled out his phone and made a call. Min Seo could hear him talking to someone. Yes, this is security at the employee entrance. I need to verify an employee. Do you have an executive assistant named Park Jun Young? He paused, listening. Yes. Okay, what does he do? Another pause. And what does he look like? Another pause. Young-ho's expression changed slightly. I see. Thank you. He ended the call and looked at Sang-wook. He seemed a little less confident now. There is an executive assistant named Park Jun Young. He works directly for the president of the airline. Sang-wook frowned. So she knows the name of some assistant. That does not prove anything. She probably heard the name somewhere and is using it to sound important. But Young-ho looked uncertain now. The person I talked to said Park Jun Young left his office about 15 minutes ago. They said he seemed to be in a hurry. They said he took 3 other executives with him. A nervous feeling started in Sang-wook's stomach. So what, maybe they have a meeting somewhere? Maybe, Young-ho said. But he did not sound convinced anymore. Hye-jin suddenly gasped. She had been looking at her phone, searching the internet. I know where I saw her face, she said loudly. I know who she is. Everyone turned to look at Hye-jin. She held up her phone, showing the screen to the people near her. This is Min Seo Park. She is the CEO and owner of Skybridge Airlines. This woman sitting on the bench is Min Seo Park. The crowd went silent. Everyone stared at the phone screen, then at Min Seo, then back at the screen. The photo on the phone showed the same woman, but she was wearing a business suit. Her hair was styled differently. She was wearing makeup. But it was definitely the same face. Young-ho and Sang-wook stood frozen. The color drained from their faces. Their confident expressions melted away and were replaced with pure terror. That is impossible, Sang-wook whispered. The president is a busy executive. She does not just walk around in old clothes. She has drivers and assistants. She does not use the employee entrance. Actually, Min Seo said, standing up from the bench, I use the employee entrance quite often. I like to see how my airline really operates. I like to meet my employees without them knowing who I am at first. It helps me understand the truth about my company. Young-ho started to say something, but no words came out. His mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. This is a misunderstanding, Sang-wook said quickly. His voice was shaking. We were just doing our job. We were just being thorough. We were protecting the airport. The chief operating officer stepped forward. His name was Kim Tae-hyun, and he had worked with Min Seo for 12 years. He was a serious man who ran the daily operations of the airline. He looked at the scene with disbelief and anger in his eyes. President Park, he said, bowing respectfully. What has happened here? Why were you waiting outside? Did no one let you in? Before Min Seo could answer, Sang-wook suddenly dropped to his knees on the ground. His hands were shaking. I am so sorry, President Park, I did not know. I did not recognize you. Please forgive me. I was only trying to do my job. Young-ho also fell to his knees. Tears were starting to form in his eyes. Please, President Park, we made a terrible mistake. We are so sorry. We beg for your forgiveness. The crowd of employees watched in stunned silence. Many of them had their phones up, recording every moment. This scene would be shared thousands of times on social media by the end of the day. Min Seo looked down at the 2 guards kneeling in front of her. She did not speak right away. She let the silence stretch out. She wanted them to feel uncomfortable. She wanted them to understand the weight of what they had done. Finally, she spoke. Her voice was calm but firm. Stand up. Both of you stand up. Young-ho and Sang-wook slowly got to their feet. They kept their heads down. They could not look at her face. Tell me, Min Seo said. If I had walked up to this entrance wearing an expensive suit, what would you have done? We would have checked your ID properly, Young-ho whispered. Speak louder, Min Seo said. Everyone here should hear your answer. We would have checked your ID properly, Young-ho repeated louder. We would have been respectful. And why did you not check my ID properly today? Min-seo asked. Sang-wook struggled to find words. Because we thought. We judged you by your appearance. We assumed you were not important. Not important, Min-seo repeated. She turned to address the whole crowd. Everyone here heard that. These guards decided I was not important based only on how I looked. They decided I did not deserve respect. They decided they did not need to do their job properly because I was just an old woman in cheap clothes. She turned back to the guards. But let me ask you something. Should a person's treatment depend on whether they are important? Should you be respectful only to people who have power or money? What about all the other employees here? The cleaning staff, the maintenance workers, the baggage handlers? Do they deserve less respect because their jobs are not high-ranking? Neither guard could answer. They just stood there with shame written all over their faces. The director of human resources, a woman named Lee Soo-jin, stepped forward with a tablet computer in her hands. President Park, I took the liberty of pulling up the employee files for these two guards. Would you like me to share what I found? Yes, please, Min-seo said. Soo-jin looked at her tablet screen. Young-ho has been employed here for 5 years. In that time, he has received 3 written complaints from other employees. 2 complaints were about disrespectful behavior. 1 complaint was about abuse of authority. He received verbal warnings but no serious consequences. She swiped to another page. Sang-wook has been employed for 7 years. He has received 4 written complaints. All 4 were about treating lower-level employees badly. He also received warnings but continued the behavior. Min-seo absorbed this information. So this is not the first time. This is a pattern of behavior. It appears so, Soo-jin confirmed. The head of security, a man named Choi Dong-min, looked very upset. He was responsible for all security personnel at the airport. President Park, I take full responsibility for this. These men work under my authority. I should have dealt with the complaints more seriously. I should have disciplined them properly or terminated their employment. Min-seo looked at him. Yes, you should have. We will discuss that later, but right now, I want to understand exactly what has been happening here. She raised her voice so everyone in the crowd could hear clearly. I want to know if anyone else has witnessed these guards treating people badly. If you have seen something, I want you to speak up now. This is a safe space. You will not be punished for telling the truth. In fact, I encourage it. I need to know what has really been happening in my company. At first, no one moved. People looked at each other nervously. Speaking up against security guards could be risky. What if things went back to normal tomorrow? What if there were consequences? But then an older woman stepped forward. She wore a cleaning uniform. Her name tag said Park Ji-won. She looked nervous but determined. President Park, she said quietly. I have something to say. Please speak, Min-seo encouraged her. What is your name and what do you do here? My name is Park Ji-won. I clean the airport terminals. I have worked here for 8 years. Thank you, Ji-won. What would you like to share? The cleaning woman took a deep breath. Sang-wook has been mean to me many times. He says I make the airport look bad because I am old and not pretty. He says I should work only at night when passengers cannot see me. He makes me use the back corridors and tells me I cannot walk through the main terminal during busy times. Min-seo's jaw tightened. She looked at Sang-wook, whose face had gone completely white. Is this true? Sang-wook opened his mouth, but no words came out. Is this true? Min-seo repeated, her voice harder now. I was just trying to maintain standards, Sang-wook stammered. I thought it would be better for the airport image if what? Min-seo interrupted. If our cleaning staff were invisible? If they were ashamed of their work? Ji-won, how did this make you feel? The cleaning woman's eyes filled with tears. I felt like I was not human. I felt like my work did not matter. I started to hate coming to work. I even thought about quitting even though I need this job to support my family. Min-seo walked over to Ji-won and took her hands gently. Your work matters very much. This airport could not function without you and your team. You keep this place clean and safe. You should be proud of your work. And you should be able to walk through any part of this airport at any time. Do you understand me? Ji-won nodded, tears running down her cheeks. Thank you, President Park. Does anyone else have something to share? Min-seo asked, turning back to the crowd. A young man in a maintenance uniform raised his hand slowly. My name is Yoon Jae-sung. I work in aircraft maintenance. Yes, Jae-sung. What would you like to say? Young-ho once denied me access to the employee bathroom. He said people like me should use the public bathrooms. He said we were dirty from our work and he did not want us using the same facilities as office workers. Min-seo closed her eyes for a moment. When she opened them, they were filled with controlled anger. Young-ho, is this true? Young-ho looked at the ground. I was trying to keep things organized. You thought wrong, Min-seo said sharply. Every employee in this company, regardless of their job, has the right to use employee facilities. That is not your decision to make. An older woman in an airline uniform spoke up next. President Park, my name is Kang Mi-young. I am a ticketing agent. I have worked for this airline for 15 years. Yes, Mi-young, please share your experience. Both of these guards have made comments about my age. They say I make the company look old-fashioned. They suggest I should retire. They say passengers do not want to see old people working at the ticket counter. It has made me feel worthless even though I have more experience than most of the other agents. Min-seo shook her head in disgust. Mi-young, your experience is valuable. Your knowledge is valuable. There is no age limit on being good at your job. More and more employees started speaking up. Each one had a story about Young-ho, Sang-wook, or sometimes both. The stories painted a picture of systematic mistreatment. The guards had been using their authority to make people feel small. They had been judging people based on appearance, age, job title, and social status. Jun Young, Min-seo's assistant, had been taking notes on his phone. President Park, we now have testimony from 12 different employees about mistreatment. Min-seo nodded. She looked at Young-ho and Sang-wook. Both men looked sick. They realized their careers were over. But more than that, they were starting to realize how much pain they had caused to so many people. Let me explain something to both of you, Min-seo said. When I bought this airline 16 years ago, it was failing. Do you know why it was failing? Because the previous owners did not value their employees. They treated workers like they were disposable. They created a culture where some people were seen as more important than others. She paused, making sure everyone was listening. I built this airline on different principles. Everyone who works here matters. The person who cleans the bathrooms is just as important as the pilot who flies the plane. The baggage handler is just as important as the executive in the office. We are all part of one team. We all deserve respect and dignity. She pointed at the two guards. You have violated these principles. You have created a hostile work environment. You have made people feel ashamed of their honest work. You have abused your authority. And you did all of this because you believed that some people were worth less than others, based on superficial judgments. Sang-wook started crying. I'm sorry. I am so sorry. I never thought about it that way. I just thought I was maintaining standards. 1 week passed after the incident at the employee entrance. During that week, the Human Resources Department worked day and night. Director Lee Soo-jin and her team conducted a thorough investigation. They interviewed 73 employees. They reviewed security camera footage. They examined all past complaints against security personnel. What they discovered was worse than anyone had expected. Min-seo sat in her office reading through the investigation report. Her assistant Jun Young sat across from her, waiting quietly. The afternoon sun came through the large windows, but Min-seo did not notice the beautiful view. She was too focused on the words in front of her. This is terrible, she said quietly. Young-ho and Sang-wook were not the only ones. This report lists 8 security guards who have been mistreating employees. Yes, President Park, Jun Young confirmed. The investigation found a pattern. Many security guards believed they had the authority to decide who belonged in certain areas based on appearance and job title. Min-seo continued reading. The report contained detailed testimonies from employees. A cleaning supervisor named Kim Young-soo described how security guards regularly made his team feel unwelcome in employee break rooms. They were told to eat their lunch in storage areas or outside. They were told they made other employees uncomfortable. A maintenance worker named Lee Sang-ho told about being stopped and questioned every single day when entering the employee entrance, even though he had worked there for 6 years. The guards never remembered him. They always treated him with suspicion. Meanwhile, office workers in suits were waved through without even showing their ID cards. An older flight attendant named Oh Soo-jin shared that guards often made comments about her age. They would say things like, "Are you still working?" Or, "Should someone your age be flying?" The comments made her feel like she was unwanted, even though passengers loved her because of her experience and kindness. A baggage handler named Choi Min-ho described being told he could not use the main employee entrance during busy times. Guards said he should use the service entrance because his uniform was dirty from loading bags. This added 15 minutes to his walk to work every day. The stories went on and on. Min-seo felt sick to her stomach as she read each one. How had this been happening in her company? How had she not known about it? The report also examines how complaints were handled, Jun-young said carefully. This is where the problem becomes more complicated. Min-seo looked up from the report. What do you mean? 37 formal complaints were filed against security guards over the past 5 years. Most of them were filed by lower-level employees. In almost every case, the complaints were investigated by the security department's own internal review process. The head of security, Choi Dong-min, was responsible for reviewing them, and Min-seo prompted. And in most cases, the guards were given verbal warnings or told to write apology letters. Only 3 guards ever received written warnings that went into their permanent files. None were ever suspended or fired. Min-seo closed her eyes. So the system was broken. Employees reported problems, but nothing really changed. There is more, Jun-young said. Several employees said they stopped reporting incidents because they felt nothing would happen. They said the security guards became even meaner to people who filed complaints. It created a culture of fear. Why did this not reach me? Min-seo asked. Why did no one tell me about this pattern? The complaints stayed within the security department. Choi Dong-min's reports to upper management always said that complaints were handled appropriately and that guards were properly trained. He never indicated that there was a systematic problem. Min-seo felt disappointed and angry. She had trusted Dong-min. He had been with the company for 10 years. She had thought he was doing a good job, but clearly he had either failed to see the problem or had chosen to ignore it. Is Dong-min trying to protect his team? Min-seo wondered aloud. Or did he just not take the complaint seriously? The investigation suggests both, Jun-young answered. He seems to have believed that security guards needed to be strict to do their job. He did not see the difference between being strict and being disrespectful. He also seems to have given his guards too much freedom in deciding who to question and how to treat people. Min-seo stood up and walked to the window. Below she could see the airport terminals. Thousands of people moved through the airport every day. Most of them never saw what happened behind the scenes. They never saw how employees treated each other. But that behind-the-scenes culture was actually the heart of the company. What are your recommendations? Min-seo asked. Soo-jin had joined them in the office now. She carried a larger file of documents. President Park, I recommend immediate termination for Jung-ho and Sang-wook. The evidence against them is overwhelming. They have violated company policy repeatedly. They have created a hostile work environment, and they showed no real remorse until they discovered who you were. Agreed, Min-seo said. What about the others? 3 other security guards should also be terminated. Their behavior was similar to Jung-ho and Sang-wook. The evidence is clear. And the remaining guards mentioned in the report? 4 guards should receive final written warnings and mandatory retraining. Their behavior was inappropriate but not as severe. If they have any future incidents, they will be terminated immediately. Min-seo nodded. And Choi Dong-min? Soo-jin hesitated. That is a harder decision. He failed in his supervisory duties. He did not take complaints seriously. He protected his team when he should have disciplined them. However, he has been with the company for a long time and has done good work in other areas. But he allowed a toxic culture to develop under his leadership, Min-seo said. Employees suffered because he did not act. That is a serious failure. Yes, it is, Soo-jin agreed. Min-seo thought carefully. I want Dong-min removed as head of security. He can be reassigned to a position without supervisory authority. He needs to understand that leadership is a privilege, not a right. And if he cannot protect the dignity of all employees, then he should not be in charge of any team. I will prepare the paperwork, Soo-jin said. Now, let us talk about the employees who were mistreated. Min-seo said. What are we doing for them? Jun-young pulled out another document. We have identified 23 employees who were directly affected by the guards' behavior. We are offering each of them a personal meeting with you, if they want it. We are also offering counseling services for anyone who needs them, and we are providing compensation for the distress they experienced. Good, Min-seo said. I want to meet with each person personally. I want them to hear directly from me that what happened was wrong and that their company values them. Over the next 3 days, Min-seo met with each affected employee individually. These meetings took place in a comfortable conference room, not in her intimidating corner office. She wanted people to feel safe and welcome, not nervous. The first meeting was with Park Ji-won, the cleaning woman who had spoken up at the employee entrance. Ji-won entered the room nervously. She had never met with a CEO before. She did not know what to expect. "Please sit down," Min-seo said warmly, gesturing to a comfortable chair. "Would you like some tea or coffee?" "Tea, please," Ji-won said quietly. Min-seo poured tea for both of them herself. "Ji-won, thank you for meeting with me, and thank you for being brave enough to speak up last week. I know that was not easy. I was very scared," Ji-won admitted, "but I was also angry. I have been treated badly for so long. When I saw them treating you the same way, I thought maybe things could finally change." "They will change," Min-seo promised. "I want you to know that what Sang-wook said to you was completely wrong. You do not make this airport look bad. You make it function. Without you and your team, this place would fall apart within days." Tears filled Ji-won's eyes. "No one has ever said that to me before. Most people do not even see me. I clean around them and they look right through me like I am invisible." Min-seo reached across the table and held Ji-won's hand. "You are not invisible. Your work matters. You matter, and from now on, you should feel free to walk anywhere in this airport at any time. You belong here just as much as anyone else." "Thank you, President Park," Ji-won whispered. "You do not know what this means to me." "I think I do know," Min-seo said gently. "I grew up poor. My parents sold fish in a market. People looked down on us because of our work. I understand what it feels like to be treated like you are less than other people. That is why I am so angry about what happened. That is why I am determined to fix it." The meeting with Yoon Jae-sung, the maintenance worker, was equally emotional. Jae-sung was a quiet young man who loved his job. He loved working on airplanes. He loved making sure they were safe for passengers. But the treatment from security guards had made him dread coming to work. "I almost quit," he told Min-seo. "I had another job offer from a different airline. I was going to take it because I was tired of being treated like I was dirty or worthless." "I am glad you stayed," Min-seo said, "and I am sorry that you felt you had to leave. Tell me, what would make you feel valued here?" Jae-sung thought about it. "I just want to be treated like a professional. I have training. I have certifications. I take my work seriously. I want others to see that." The executive team sat in uncomfortable silence. Min-seo looked at each of them, waiting for someone to speak. Finally, the chief operating officer, Kim Tae-hyun, cleared his throat. "President Park, I think part of the problem is that we have been focused on growth and efficiency. We have been measuring success by passenger numbers, flight schedules, and profit margins. We have not been measuring how employees feel or how they treat each other." Min-seo nodded. "You are right. We measure what we value, and apparently, we have not been valuing employee dignity enough to measure it properly." The director of marketing, a young woman named Shin Hae-won, spoke up nervously. "I also think Mi-young made a good point about our marketing. When I look at our materials, we do only show young employees. We have been trying to project a modern, youthful image, but maybe we have gone too far." "Maybe?" Min-seo raised her eyebrows. "Hae-won, look around this airport. Our employees range from 18 to 70 years old. They come in all shapes and sizes. They have different backgrounds and different experiences, but our marketing shows only one type of person. That sends a message about who we think is valuable. I will change that," Hae-won promised. "Our next campaign will show the real diversity of our workforce." Soo-jin, the human resources director, added her thoughts. "I have been reviewing our promotion records. The data shows that younger employees are promoted faster on average. When I looked deeper, I found that older employees often are not even considered for certain positions. Managers assume they are not interested in advancement or that they are too set in their ways. Those are stereotypes," Min-seo said firmly, "not facts. People of all ages want opportunities to grow. We need to make decisions based on ability and performance, not on age." For the next 2 hours, the executive team discussed everything that needed to change. They made a list of action items. Some were simple and could be done quickly. Others were complex and would take months to implement properly. The simple changes included new signage reminding everyone that all employees could use all facilities. Updated break room policies making it clear that all workers were welcome. Better lighting and seating in areas used by maintenance and cleaning staff. These changes could happen within a week. The complex changes would take longer. A complete revision of the complaint system, new anonymous reporting options, regular employee surveys about workplace culture, mandatory respect training for all employees, not just new hires, changes to promotion processes to reduce age bias, updates to marketing guidelines to show workforce diversity. I want to announce these changes at a company-wide meeting, Minseo said. I want everyone to hear directly from me that things are changing and why they are changing. 1 week after the investigation ended, Minseo held a company-wide meeting. It was held in the airport's largest conference hall. Every employee who could attend was invited. For employees who were working during the meeting time, the session would be recorded and shown later. More than 800 employees filled the conference hall. Minseo stood on the stage looking out at the sea of faces. She saw executives in business suits sitting next to cleaning staff in uniforms. She saw pilots sitting next to baggage handlers. She saw young employees next to older ones. This was what she wanted to see. Everyone together. Thank you all for coming, Minseo began. I know many of you have heard about what happened at the employee entrance 2 weeks ago. Some of you were there. Some of you saw the videos that were shared online, and some of you only heard the stories. She paused, making sure she had everyone's attention. I want to tell you what really happened that morning and what it taught me about our company. She described arriving at the airport in simple clothes. She described being stopped by the guards. She described being mocked and humiliated. She did not leave out any details. She wanted everyone to understand exactly what had occurred. Those guards judged me based only on my appearance, Minseo said. They decided I was not important. They decided I did not deserve respect. They decided they did not need to do their job properly. And they felt comfortable treating me that way because they thought I had no power. She let that sink in for a moment. But here is what they did not know. I was not the first person they treated that way. The investigation that followed found that many employees had experienced similar treatment. Cleaning staff who were told to be invisible, maintenance workers who were denied basic facilities, older employees who were mocked for their age, lower-level workers who were made to feel worthless. A murmur went through the crowd. Many employees were nodding. They had experienced these things or witnessed them. This investigation taught me something painful, Minseo continued. It taught me that the culture I tried to build has not reached every part of this company. It taught me that some people are still being judged by their appearance, their age, their job title, or their social status, and that is completely unacceptable. She took a deep breath. Today I am announcing the results of the investigation and the actions we are taking. First, 5 security guards have been terminated from employment. Their behavior violated our values and our policies. They created a hostile work environment. They showed no real understanding of what they did wrong. She listed the names Young-ho, Sang-wook, and 3 others. Some employees in the crowd looked shocked. Others nodded in approval. 4 other security guards have received final written warnings and will undergo extensive retraining. Any future incidents will result in immediate termination. She paused again. Additionally, our former head of security, Choi Dong-min, has been removed from his leadership position. He failed to protect employees under his watch. He did not take complaints seriously. He allowed a toxic culture to develop in his department. He has been reassigned to a non-supervisory role. This announcement caused more murmuring in the crowd. Dong-min had been well known in the company. But firing a few people is not enough, Minseo said firmly. We need to change the entire culture. We need to make sure this never happens again, so I am announcing several major changes. She outlined all the new policies and programs, the updated complaint system with anonymous reporting options, the quarterly employee culture surveys, the mandatory respect training for all employees, the changes to promotion processes, the updated marketing guidelines. I am also creating a new position, Director of Employee Dignity, Minseo announced. This person will report directly to me. Their only job will be to ensure that every employee feels valued and respected. They will investigate complaints. They will monitor workplace culture. They will recommend changes. And they will have my full support to make things right. She looked out at the crowd. I am also forming an employee dignity task force. This task force will include employees from all levels and all departments. They will meet monthly to discuss issues and recommend solutions. I want voices from every part of this company to be heard. Minseo then did something unexpected. She asked Hyejin, the young manager who had tried to help her at the employee entrance, to come up on stage. Hyejin walked up nervously. This is Hyejin, Minseo said. When I was being mistreated by the security guards, Hye-jin spoke up. She questioned their behavior. She tried to help me even though she did not know who I was. She showed courage and integrity. Hye-jin blushed as 800 people looked at her. I am pleased to announce that Hye-jin is being promoted to assistant director in our new employee relations department. She will help implement all of these new changes. She will help train employees on respect and dignity, and she will be a voice for employees who need one. The crowd broke into applause. Hye-jin looked like she might cry from happiness and surprise. Min-seo also asked several of the affected employees to come on stage. Park Ji-won, the cleaning woman, Yoon Jae-sung, the maintenance worker, Kang Mi-young, the older ticketing agent, and several others. These people showed tremendous courage, Min-seo said. They spoke up about being mistreated even though they were scared. They helped us understand the problems in our company. They are helping us make changes. Please join me in thanking them. The entire crowd stood up and applauded. Ji-won and the others looked uncomfortable with the attention, but also touched by the recognition. After the applause died down, Min-seo spoke more personally. I want to share something with you. I did not grow up rich. My parents were simple people who sold fish in a market. I wore clothes that smelled like fish. Other kids made fun of me. I know what it feels like to be looked down on because of where you come from or what you do. She could see that many employees were listening very carefully now. They had not known this about their CEO. When I built this company, I promised myself that it would be different, that everyone would be valued, that no one would be made to feel small. But I realize now that my vision has not fully come true. Some people are still being treated badly. Some people still feel invisible. Her voice became more passionate. But that ends now. Starting today, we are building a better culture. A culture where everyone matters, where everyone is respected, where everyone has dignity, and I need all of you to help me do this. 3 months passed after the incident at the employee entrance. It was a cool autumn morning when Min-seo Park once again arrived at Incheon International Airport. Just like before, she wore simple clothes, old jeans, a comfortable jacket, and walking shoes. Her hair was pulled back in a simple style. She carried the same worn backpack, but this time was different. This time she knew what to expect. This time she was testing to see if anything had really changed. She parked her car in the employee parking lot and walked toward the employee entrance. As she got closer, she saw 2 security guards standing there. They were different guards from before. One was a young woman named Kim Ji-woo. The other was a man named Lee Soo-min. Both had been hired after the investigation as part of the new security team. Min-seo approached the entrance. Ji-woo looked up and smiled politely. Good morning, welcome. Good morning, Min-seo replied. May I see your employee identification, please? Ji-woo asked. Her voice was respectful and professional. Min-seo pulled out her ID card and handed it to Ji-woo. The guard took it carefully and scanned it in the system. The computer beeped and showed Min-seo's information on the screen. Ji-woo's eyes widened slightly when she saw the name and photo. She was looking at the president of the entire airline. But her training kicked in immediately. She had been taught to treat everyone with the same level of respect regardless of their position. Thank you, President Park, Ji-woo said, handing back the card with a bow. Welcome to the airport. Is there anything I can help you with today? No, thank you, Min-seo said with a genuine smile. I can find my way. Soo-min, the other guard, had also seen who she was on the computer screen. President Park, would you like me to call someone to escort you to your office? That is not necessary, but thank you for offering, Min-seo said. She was impressed. Both guards had recognized her but had not made a big fuss. They had simply done their job professionally and respectfully. As she walked through the employee entrance, Min-seo noticed other changes. New signs were posted on the walls. One sign read, "All employees welcome in all facilities, no exceptions." Another said, "Respect and dignity for everyone. Report problems to employee relations." A third had a phone number and email address for anonymous reporting. She walked through the employee corridor, observing everything. The lighting was better than before. There were new benches where people could sit. The bulletin board had information about the new Employee Dignity Task Force and upcoming training sessions. Min-seo saw a cleaning supervisor named Cho Yoon-ji walking through the corridor. Hyunji was carrying supplies and heading toward the main terminal. 3 months ago, cleaning staff had been told to use back corridors during busy times. Now Hyunji walked through the main employee areas with her head held high. Min-seo also saw maintenance workers in the employee break room. They were having coffee and talking with flight attendants and office workers. Everyone was mixed together naturally. No one was being told they did not belong. She decided to visit different parts of the airport without announcing herself. This was what she did regularly now. Once or twice a month she would dress simply and observe. Sometimes people recognized her. Sometimes they did not. But the goal was always the same: to see how things really worked. She went to the baggage handling area. Workers were busy loading bags onto carts and driving them to planes. She watched for about 20 minutes. She saw supervisors talking respectfully to their teams. She saw workers helping each other. She saw a positive energy that had not been there before. One of the baggage handlers noticed her watching. He was a young man named Park Dong-wook. He walked over to her. "Can I help you find something?" he asked politely. "I am just observing," Min-seo said. "How is the work going today?" "Good," Dong-wook said. "We are a little behind schedule because of the weather, but we are catching up." He paused, looking at her more closely. "Do you work here? I have not seen you before." Min-seo smiled. He did not recognize her. That was fine. "Yes, I work here. Tell me, are you happy in your job?" Dong-wook seemed surprised by the question. "Actually, yes. Things have gotten a lot better in the past few months. The supervisors treat us better. We have better equipment, and people respect us more. It feels good to come to work now." "I am glad to hear that," Min-seo said. "What made the biggest difference?" "The training sessions," Dong-wook said. "Everyone had to go through this respect training. At first I thought it would be boring and useless, but it actually made people think about how they treat each other. And the supervisors take it seriously now. If someone is disrespectful, there are real consequences." Min-seo thanked him and moved on. She felt encouraged by what she was hearing and seeing. Next, she visited the main terminal. She stopped at a ticketing counter where Kang Mi-young, the older agent, was working. Mi-young was helping a passenger with a complicated booking. Min-seo watched from a distance. Mi-young was patient and knowledgeable. The passenger left looking happy and satisfied. During a quiet moment, Min-seo approached the counter. Mi-young looked up and immediately recognized her. "President Park," she said with a warm smile. "This is a nice surprise." "How are you, Mi-young?" Min-seo asked. "I am well. Thank you for asking." Mi-young looked around to make sure no one was listening. "Things really have changed, you know. I feel valued now. My supervisor actually asks for my advice, and the new marketing campaign featured my photo. Me, a 62-year-old woman in an airline advertisement. I never thought I would see that." Min-seo smiled. "You have earned it. Your experience matters. Your knowledge matters. You matter." After talking with Mi-young for a few more minutes, Min-seo continued her tour. She visited the maintenance hangars, the cleaning staff offices, the employee cafeteria, and various other areas. Everywhere she went, she saw small improvements, better facilities, more respectful interactions, people treating each other like colleagues and equals. But she also saw that not everything was perfect. In one area, she overheard a supervisor speaking rudely to an employee. She made a note of it. The new reporting system would be used. In another area, she noticed that employee suggestions in the suggestion box had not been responded to in several weeks. Another note. Someone was not doing their job properly. The changes were real, but they required constant attention. Culture did not change overnight. It required ongoing work and vigilance. Later that day, Min-seo attended a meeting of the Employee Dignity Task Force. This was the committee she had created after the investigation. It included 15 employees from different departments and levels. Park Ji-won, the cleaning woman, was a member. So was Yoon Jae-sung, the maintenance worker. So was Kang Mi-young. There were also managers, pilots, flight attendants, and others. The task force met once a month to discuss workplace culture issues and recommend solutions. Today's meeting was led by Hyejin, who had been promoted to Assistant Director of Employee Relations. "Welcome, everyone," Hyejin said, starting the meeting. "Let us begin with updates. The anonymous reporting system has received 43 reports in the past month. Most were minor issues that were resolved quickly. 3 were serious and required formal investigation." She went through each serious case. One involved a manager who had made age-discriminatory comments. The manager had been given a written warning and required to attend additional training. Another involved a supervisor who had created a hostile environment by playing favorites. The supervisor had been counseled and was now being monitored closely. The third involved a contractor who had sexually harassed an employee. The contractor's company had been notified, and the individual had been banned from the airport. "The system is working," Hyejin concluded. "People feel safe to report problems, and we are addressing them seriously." Min Seo listened carefully. She was pleased that the reporting system was being used, but concerned about the number of issues. 43 reports in 1 month seemed high. "Is 43 reports normal?" she asked. "Should we be worried about that number?" The Director of Employee Dignity, a man named Jung Hwan-soo, who had been hired 2 months ago, answered. "Actually, President Park, I think this is a positive sign. Before the new system, we were getting only about 5 reports per month. But we know from surveys that many more incidents were happening. People just were not reporting them. Now that we have made reporting easier and safer, people are using it. I expect the number to eventually decrease as culture improves, but right now I see the high number as evidence that the system is working." Min Seo nodded. That made sense. "What about the survey results? How are employees feeling overall?" Hwan-soo pulled up data on his laptop. "We just completed our first quarterly culture survey. We had an 87% response rate, which is excellent. Overall, 72% of employees said they feel respected at work. That is up from 58% in a baseline survey we did right after the incident. So we improved by 14 percentage points," Min Seo calculated. "That is good, but it means 28% still do not feel respected. That is more than 1 in 4 employees."